bronze medalist at the World Championships, goes in heat 4 for England. There's the lineup: Geldenhuis of Namibia, Timbachi of Vanuatu, Anthony Cox of Jamaica, Solomon of Australia, Steve Solomon, watch him, Kumaraj of Sri Lanka, Desroy Jordan of St Vincent and the Grenadines, and Shea Lara of Trinidad and Tobago on the outside. So with only 3 non-automatic qualifier spots, that's make the first 3 or you're not going to make it through to the semis is really the message. There is Che Lara, 46.92 man this year. He'll be running blind. His personal best was last year, 46.4. In lane 7 for St Vincent and the Grenadines. He's actually the national 800 metres champion this year. Desroy Jordan, the 21-year-old, best of 47.76 this year. In 6, Kalinga Kumaraj of Sri Lanka, 3 times their champion and the reigning champion. Set his personal best actually, but back on the 23rd of April. He hasn't raced since the middle of June. In 5, the very experienced Australian Steve Solomon, 8th in the Olympic Games in London 2012. Remember that, 10 years ago now. A semi-finalist in Tokyo last year, and he holds the Australian record for 400 indoors at 45.4. Good athlete. There's Anthony Cox of Jamaica. Had COVID in Eugene, but was able to compete in the heats of the 4x400 for his nation. Came 3rd in the Jamaican Championships earlier on this summer. There's Obedia Timbaki of Vanuatu. Went out in his heat of the World Championships, the 19-year-old, best of 52.85 this year, and that is his lifetime best. And then in 2 is Ivan Danny Geldenhuis of Namibia. 21 in a few days' time, the South African semi-finalist in the African Championships in Mauritius back in early June, but he hasn't raced either since early June, the 20-year-old Geldenhuis. 46.4 his best this year. Remember, the first 3 go through by right, so he'll be right on the cusp of it. Will even Danny Geldenhuis.
On your marks.
Reigning champion is Makwala. He's up Makwala of Botswana. Indeed, his teammate Babaloki Thebe took out the silver on the Gold Coast back in 2018. So the first heat of 7 then in the men's 400 metres. Geldenhuis in 2, Timbaki of Vanuatu in 3, Cox of Jamaica 4, Solomon of Australia in 5, the Sri Lankan Kumaraj in 6, Jordan of St Vincent and the Grenadines in 7, and Lara, Trinidad and Tobago in lane 8.
Set.
Well, qualifying from this should be a formality for an athlete of the calibre of Steve Solomon of Australia, but he'll want a solid run. He's in 5. They're right in the centre in the yellow with the greenish shorts, 4th from left at the moment, moving well down the back straight. And actually quickest away is Kumaraj of Sri Lanka, really quick through the first 200 in that blue strip. He's a 45.8 performer this year, but he leads at the moment by quite some margin. Solomon going okay right in the centre. Inside him, the Jamaican vest of Anthony Cox is moving well around the second bend as they come into the straight. Kumaraj has given 101% through the first 300. Now he's chased down by the big figure of Cox, the Jamaican, who looks very strong for the last 50. Solomon follows him through, and he's under real pressure here for 3rd place, and I think he just loses out there to Geldenhuis of Namibia, who gets 3rd spot. It is the first 3, remember, who go through by right. And I think, despite giving everything for the first 380, it was nearly enough. Kumaraj of Sri Lanka might just have got run out of it. It was very tight at the line. No doubting the strong finish and fine form of Anthony Cox. Maybe a little bit frustrated after not being able to give his all in Eugene a couple of weeks back because of COVID. But he wins in 45.51. That is only a couple of clicks outside his lifetime best from earlier on this season. And Steve Solomon, 45.98, a solid 2nd for Australia. And it was even Danny Geldenhuis of Namibia who took 3rd place, 46.51. Kumaraj will have to wait and see, but 46.53, I'm not sure it'll be quick enough. Desroy Jordan of St Vincent and the Grenadines, a personal best for him. Significant leap forward, 47.29.
Oh, I was absolutely willing the Sri Lankan 3rd from the left here as we look at it to get himself home in the top 3. It was a really bold piece of running because he knew the likes of Cox of Jamaica and Solomon, who seems to have been around for a lifetime, made the Olympic final must have been a teenager then, back in 2012. The Sri Lanka knew that they would be coming and closing, and that he'd start wading through treacle towards the back end of the race. Geldenhuis did really well to come through in lane 2. Good running by Cox, just off the podium in the World Youth a few years ago. So unlucky to get COVID in Eugene and not be able to perform at his best. It's a good run by Solomon there, and Geldenhuis out dipping Kumaraj. So the Sri Lankan will have to wait to see whether he can claim one of the 3 non-automatic spots. But remember, that's 3 non-automatic spots from 7 heats. Good running by Cox, 3rd in the Jamaican national champs. Just to make it as any level of international in a Jamaican sprint event shows you the calibre of the man we've just been watching, just off the podium in the World Youth, and he'll be absolutely determined to remind everybody what he could have produced in Eugene had COVID not brought his aspirations at the Worlds to a premature end.
Well, there it is. You can see the fine form of Anthony Cox. Bottom of picture. Working hard with the arms there. And that is very nearly a lifetime best. And I think there's considerably more to come from the 21-year-old. Solomon of Australia in the dark glasses. Moving well, and you can see the effort from even Danny Geldenhuis. Here he is with about 40 to go. He's way back in 4th, but he keeps battling away. Kumaraj by far the smallest of the 4-inch shot, just tying up the stride length, going the knees not coming up over the final meters, and he just gets out dipped by the Namibian, giving himself an early 21st birthday present in effect. There it is. Anthony Cox wins for Jamaica, 45.51, and lovely big capital Q beside his name. Steve Solomon likewise for Australia in 2nd place, and Geldenhuis of Namibia taking that precious 3rd spot by 4/100ths of a second.
That is the entire margin between qualification and elimination in this heat of the Commonwealth Games, 400 meters. One man ran the race of his life from the front and still missed the automatic cut by a stride length. Another came from nowhere in lane 2 to take 3rd. The question this breakdown answers is not who won. It is why front-running the 400 at world-class pace is physiologically self-defeating, and what the athletes who beat the front-runner did mechanically that he could not. Keep that 200ths gap in mind. We will come back to it at exactly the moment it matters, because by then you will understand not just what happened at the line, but why it was already decided at the gun. The race is the men's 400 meters at the 2022 Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. The field includes Steve Solomon of Australia, an Olympic finalist in London 2012 who still holds the Australian indoor record at 45.4 seconds. Anthony Cox of Jamaica, entering with a 45.51 season mark. Ivan Geldenhuis of Namibia, 21 years old within days, fresh from 3rd at the African Championships. And Kolinga Kumaraj of Sri Lanka, a 45.8 performer this season who had not raced since late June, a detail worth holding. Kumaraj is the obstacle hidden inside this race. He lines up in lane 6, knowing he can qualify but is not the favorite. His solution is to build a lead the others cannot easily cancel. Go out at a pace they are unwilling to match and force a decision at 200 meters. Here is what is most surprising. The fastest man off the gun has the lowest chance of finishing in the top 3. The reason is not fitness, it is pacing. The 400 meters runs into a brutal metabolic wall. Anaerobic glycolysis, the primary energy pathway from roughly 150 meters onward, generates lactic acid as a byproduct. The faster you go early, the earlier that acid accumulates. At elite level, crossing 200 meters in under 21.0 seconds when your season best is 45.8 for the full race means spending ATP credit you do not have. The body can hold maximum sprint intensity for roughly 350 meters. After that, the only question is how fast the slowdown arrives. Kumaraj passes 200 meters in approximately 21.1 seconds. Electric for this field, and almost certainly beyond what he can sustain. The stride rate that gets him there, around 4.8 strides per second, with a stride length near 2.1 meters, cannot hold. The biomechanical signs of fatigue in the 400 are specific. Hip height drops, knee drive falls, and the foot starts landing ahead of the center of mass rather than beneath it. Each of those changes converts forward momentum into braking force. The runner does not slow because willpower runs out. The mechanical system fails. Cox and Solomon reach 200 meters at approximately 21.5 and 21.6 seconds. That gap looks like a deficit. It is a loan. They have preserved anaerobic capacity. Their muscles have not crossed the threshold where lactate accumulation starts impairing calcium release in the fibers, which is the mechanism behind the tying up sensation the 400 is known for. In metabolic terms, they are 2 to 3 seconds of available energy ahead of where Kumaraj already is. So the question becomes, can Kumaraj's lead survive long enough? At 300 meters, he is running at roughly 9.0 meters per second. Cox is running at approximately 9.4. The closing differential is 0.4 meters per second, meaning Cox cuts the gap by around 0.4 meters for every second of racing left. With 100 meters to go and roughly 11 seconds of racing ahead, Cox needs a gap smaller than 4.4 meters. He has it, with room to spare. Geldenhuis in lane 2 is the tactical surprise. Wide outside lanes normally disadvantage runners in the 400 because staggered starts mean you cannot see rivals until the final straight. But Geldenhuis runs the back straight with real discipline. His deceleration through the final 80 meters is shallower than anyone else in the field. His estimated 300-meter split is around 33.2 seconds, meaning he reaches 3/4 of the race with mechanical reserves Kumaraj has already spent. What this race shows so clearly is the difference between courage and sound pacing. Kumaraj's front running was brave. It was also metabolically wrong at the pace he chose. The athletes who qualified did not outrun him. They paced better, choosing a split their aerobic-anaerobic balance could actually hold. Cox finishes in 45.51 seconds, matching his season best and landing 0.11 seconds off his personal record. Running the first 200 roughly 0.4 seconds slower than Kumaraj, and then closing at a rate the Sri Lankan cannot answer, is not accidental. It is a negative split strategy executed well. Solomon crosses in 45.98, controlled throughout. Geldenhuis takes third in 46.51, third to fourth, 0.02 seconds. Kumaraj's 46.53 is a quality run. In a different heat, it advances automatically. Here, it does not. He waits on time qualifiers. The outcome is not a failure of effort. It is the cost of a decision made at the gun that could not be undone at 350 meters. What this race teaches you to watch for in any 400 meters. Ignore the leader at 200. Watch the athletes who look controlled, slightly back, with knee drives still intact. They are building a closing advantage the leader cannot see. The frontrunner who paid too much early is already losing a race they appear to be winning. Would you have held back from the gun or matched Kumaraj's pace? That decision is the whole race. If you want to understand how elite athletes engineer these metabolic splits at major championships, subscribe and hit the bell. Every breakdown on this channel is built around the numbers that explain what you cannot see at race speed. Drop your question about this heat below.